Hey everyone. So today we have Ursula Williams, president of SIA. SIA is the leading research and advisory firm with the best conferences around the world related to talent. Now, when you hear this episode in a couple weeks, we will all be in Dallas at CWS and CollaborationX. And what SIA has really led is both the data and the conversation related to what's the state of talent, what's the state of workforce solutions, and where is it going? A lot of the data, when we say things like freelance is a $2 trillion industry, when we say things like freelance platforms are a $444 billion industry, a lot of that data, most of that data, comes from SIA. So enjoy a little preview of what you're going to see in Dallas in a couple weeks, and then most importantly, go drive some change. Real quick, before we get started, I want to give a shout out to the sponsor of this podcast, Greenlight.ai. We all know how important compliance is, and Greenlight.ai is the leader for compliance and EOR services, especially for talent platforms. You're going to hear about them later, but thank you to Greenlight. All right. Well, listen, Ursula, one of the best episodes was last year in you. And obviously the best event, I'm going to just say in the world, is happening in a week at the time of this coming out. And so I was fortunate to see you in London, and I can't wait to see you in Dallas. But let's just get straight into, because this is the funnest part about having you. Ursula, what the hell is happening in the world of talent, and how is technology actually impacting this world?
Well, first, thanks for having me. It was great to see you in London. I do proudly wear my shirt, my Human Cloud shirt, all around the Bay Area, and everybody nods and smiles. So you've got something big there. And many compliment the quality.
I told you, it's because I still have buying influence on this. So, I'm sure once we get a CFO, I'll get kicked out.
Yeah. Get your inventory high while you can.
Yeah, so no CFO is allowed for a while because we need to keep good T-shirts.
Yeah, it's good swag. Matt, really, this is the most exciting time that we've seen in a while. The last 5 years have just been so incredibly unpredictable. And I think for people that are able to pivot and to kind of get things head on and go for it, they've been able to tolerate the down and the crisis of 2020 and what happened and the kind of the rise with, if you were in healthcare at all, right? It was just an insane time. But really for all of staffing and just talent in general, 2022 was an incredible year. And then starting to come down from that, and with so much innovation, so much in the area of AI, if you're in IT, you're hearing a lot about solutions work and SOW work. And if you're doing traditional staff aug, you're wondering, what's going on? And this is the longest the staffing industry has been in any kind of flux with regards to just, low temp penetration numbers and really not growing, that there's a lot of concern around, what is this? Is this an economic situation? Is this a structural situation? So with technology and with AI and with what's happening and with what we're hearing, it's given just a little bit of we're getting the green shoots. We're getting a little bit of that, hey, this is kind of exciting. And we're talking to customers that are now talking to their customers about ramping up and about what they need to be getting ready for and what they're going to be doing. And the staffing companies want to do it better and different. So I think with regards to tech and technology in general, right? I don't think it just has to be AI-driven technology, but I think that's just happening so quickly. Anyway, it's just part of the tools that we use and those that are being created. But it might be the most exciting time that we've seen in a long time.
So here's something funny, Ursula. So the audience does not know, and the audience knows that I always rag on the staffing industry because it's usually posh pants and button downs and the furthest thing from technology. Okay, and I always mess with you about it. I'm like, God, if I see one more sport coat, I'm going to lose it. But you are in the heart of Silicon Valley. So you yourself are literally opening, every time you walk out the door, you're seeing this innovation. How would you describe your career and then the moment now versus prior career? Like, do you feel like something did change? Do you feel like this is an inflection point, an accelerant? Does it look like other accelerant points? Like, give us the lowdown from your vantage point, the eyes of Ursula. What are you seeing?
Oh yeah, I'd love to. I mean, we are definitely at an inflection point. I was saying to someone the other day, like, we're the cool kids now. Like this is fun. I've sure told you this before. Like it's been really hard to be in staffing and recruitment, and whether it's talent platforms, or staffing platforms, or whatever now exists, and to just not have the technology developments for so many years, right? Like it wasn't that long ago that we were talking about vendor management systems as the technology, or an ATS, right? That was out there. And there weren't that many. If you were looking for something to power your staffing business, there were few options. And if you were looking, if you were probably playing in the large account space, there were just a handful of vendor management systems that you were working with. And that was technology. And we didn't have the testing and the assessment and some of the background checking and credentialing and wallets, and even the CRMs that are embedded, even some of the payrolling options, like the fact that people can get paid in different forms of currency, like it's day pay, like it seems very common today, but it wasn't that long ago that so much of this did not exist. And so I feel like we're here, like we've arrived. And I started feeling that in probably 2016, 2017. That was collaboration in the gig economy. That was really mostly around talent platforms and still some VMS, and anticipating staffing platform, the staffing and the talent platforms were going to have that convergence. So we started to see that. But it really has taken off in the last couple of years.
And let's get into this technology. So part of, this year's the inaugural CollaborationX, right? Not a new venue, not a new time, right? This is a annual, what do you call it? Like a religious retreat, like this is an annual retreat, right? If you're in this industry, you better be there.
They call it the World Series of Recruiting and Staffing. So then this is not internal. This is what people have said to me. They're like, that's like the World Series.
Yes. So let's get into the Gig E versus CollaborationX, right? What was behind the scenes in looking at that? Why the adjustment? Why the new title? And what can we expect? Yeah, because it's all related to the technology being more than just one thing, right?
Yeah, that's a great question. We do 6 events a year. 5 are pretty much the same thing. They innovate, the content in the program innovates along with how the innovations are occurring within that specific area of what that event's about. Collaboration in the gig economy, and now last year we called it Collaboration, and this year CollaborationX, is internally we call it the Wild Child. It is the event that I created it in 2016 when I first arrived here at SIA outside of primarily a staffing background. And we did it to help address what was happening that was different than traditional staffing. At the time, people were really struggling just with large account management, VMS. They really didn't understand what a staffing or a talent platform was. They were like, are we going to become the Uber of staffing? Are we going to get completely disrupted? What's going to happen here? How do people really want to work? Wow, if they could get their car on an app, and if they could get their food on an app, are they going to want to get their jobs on the app? And are we done? And so that was really what it was about. It was like, I don't know. So let's all get together and let's all figure it out and talk about it. But that wild child of an event ended up just reinventing itself every 12 to 18 months. And so, Brian, who I know you know really well, Brian works on the program on that one, and it is just fast moving and fast changing. We found ourselves in like 18, 19. It was really more about probably talent platforms, some staffing platforms. I think we were still talking about the convergence and what might happen with that. And then all of a sudden we found ourselves just a couple of years ago, 12 of the largest 15 staffing companies in the world had platforms. So that convergence had happened. And so then we started talking to our customers and I'm like, okay, yeah, like I don't need that anymore. Like, that's not what I'm into. Like, we get it. We got what happened. We didn't get completely disrupted. We still have candidates. The others have candidates. Like, it's okay kind of thing. But then people were like, how do I optimize? How do I do this better? What's happening? We don't have as many job orders as we had in 2022. Now I have a lot of recruiters. What am I going to do? Now the wages were high. There's margin compression. Like, we need to be able to do this better. And everyone's anticipating what's that next surge. So last year on stage, I said that, it was less about the gig economy and more about the collaboration, because now there were so many ways that workers could find work and hiring managers could find the workers, and we could get in different ways to get the work done.
Yeah.
And it wasn't so shocking to people. People kind of got that. But we were starting to already feel that there was something big that was going to happen around AI. I think last year we were just a little bit like, it was all, clearly AI has been around for a long time, but it was all just starting to break. So it was after Executive Forum in March.
Yeah.
And all the buzz and all the vibe, and then just analyzing the types of companies that were coming. That's when we said, okay, we've got to change this. We've got something big. What's next? Hence the CollaborationX.
I think you hit on such an important part with the conference from your research in general.
Yeah.
Which is gig's not going away, but the ocean is larger than gig, and the ocean is collaboration. Now, it does feel like there's been like this Herculean flip in terms of the ability for talent to be disrupted across everything. And so I would say gig was cute in a lot of ways. It was still big, right? It's still a $444 billion industry. It's not small. But the world of talent, which is where you all excel so much, is the whole thing's getting disrupted. So to just say gig is to ignore 95% of the full picture. Now, when we get into AI and we get into your research, give us some of the secrets, right? And this is where this is where I get some free stuff, because it is hidden behind, your data. You guys spent so much money to get the best data. And so what are you seeing from a technology, from an AI perspective? What data is sticking out to you? And kind of tease us, right? Because I'm sure. A lot more in a week.
Matt, it's hard to do any research right now where it doesn't come into play.
Yeah.
So, from the Pulse, which is every other month going out to a set of customers and asking questions, there's some standard things around the level of sales difficulty and the level of recruiting difficulty. But the Pulse is coming back, which is published July. And top of mind is AI, high use is AI, adoption amongst the internal teams on their own and in a structured way is all about AI. Shark Tank, we just went out with Shark Tank. We had the most nominations and entrants for Shark Tank that we have had since its inception. It was it was in the 40s, Matt.
Wow.
And we picked 5 finalists.
Yeah.
And it was so difficult to get those finalists. I'm proud of the ones we have. We're really, really excited about what it is that they have to offer. But that would be another indication. Back to the research, we did not publish it yet, but we're working on it's the executive staffing outlook survey. 73% of the executives plan on spending in the area of technology and automation in the next year. 16%, I think, have said that AI has significantly changed, like game changer use of AI, not like, let me go look this up. So, we also, today we're talking about the exciting sides of it and all the opportunity and what it can do. And we just published a report just around some of the things to watch for in the algorithms and the bias and, how is that going to be assessed and what should people be looking for around that. We also know through our research that executives want to integrate the automation, they want to make a move, they don't exactly know where to make the move. So you've got this technology being innovated and coming out at a really fast pace, and then you have a desire to want to buy, but you have kind of this leveling off in some cases because they're not sure what to buy. So there's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of is it a point solution? Is it an enterprise? What if I have this and I already have that? And do those integrate? And if I'm this type of a shop and that type of a shop. So we're pretty excited also about the event where people just come and talk to all of the solutions that we have. We call them our sponsors, but it's really, if you want to learn, you get inside of that room and you go talk to every one of them and you learn, what it'll do for your business and what it's designed to do and what does it integrate with. But primarily, I love to start something new that's solving a problem. I love starting with the problem. And our research just uncovered a lot of problems around optimism, right? Around really cool things and about people's willingness to innovate. But problems that they want to, also, what do you think everybody wants? They want growth, right? They want revenue growth. So how do I get the revenue growth? How do I grow faster? How do I keep my costs down? So what does that mean? Higher productivity with the people that you have. So I think also to be able to use, technology, and if it's AI enabled technology, to just provide a better experience for your employees, to get better production, to be able to get, the solution and get to that pain point faster, which is finding the talent for the right work and getting them out working. It's pretty cool. And all of our research is pointing in that direction.
Hey everyone, real quick, I want to talk about the risk that is involved with an independent workforce. No matter where you are, whether it's the US, whether it's Brazil, whether it's the EU, whether it's London, there is risk in how you classify and how you work with individuals. Unfortunately, it's not as easy as just paying someone. The classification, the actual collaboration, the contracts, the payments, everything is intertwined and must be connected in a way that doesn't get you in trouble with the tax authorities, regulatory authorities, and even potentially class action lawsuits. There are numerous examples of this. Just search classification lawsuit on wherever you want to use and you'll get plenty. Which is why today's sponsor, Greenlight.ai, is the modern EOR, modern compliance solution for the modern workforce. There's 4 things that we want to call out when hiring an independent worker that you need. And that is, you need to onboard, you need to classify, you need to send payments, and you need to manage this global workforce. It's more than just one person, and Greenlight has all of that covered. All right, I want you to head over to greenlight.ai and tell them Human Cloud sent you. And I wonder, I think the high level question I have, which it could be very specific or broad, and that really is, what are the top problems, right? Like when looking at, and it's from both lenses, it's what are the top problems for the solution side, but also for the companies. Now, I do want to make sure that I call out how weird it is right now in some ways. And so if we look at like norms that just have always been there and now are just totally uplifted like this, I think one of the biggest norms that historically we've been accustomed to, but has totally been shattered, is one norm was we lay off when performance is bad. That's out the window, right? Now it's we downsize when we can versus when we should, which was used to be based off financial. And if you look at like Microsoft, right, 20,000 plus layoffs, and they're now explicitly stating, oh, it's because we can with AI, right? And so there's a lot of contradictions. I mean, in my world, the myth of, hey, you need a job. Okay, well, that one's kind of shattered, right? The myth of corporate, okay, that one's kind of shattered. But so there is so many norms and myths. And the last thing I'll add is like, when you look at, to me, the biggest learnings of business, and this is being in your side of the world, meaning starting in Silicon Valley, but then also being in the large enterprises, whether it's the Midwest, whether it's all over the world, one of the biggest learnings I've had is the reality of the way the world is today is usually not because it's perfect, but because it's things we did yesterday. And so there's a lot of norms in staffing and even in companies that just don't necessarily make sense, right? And so for your case, what are some of the biggest problems that your members and companies you would say is like really, really top of mind right now?
Yeah, I mean, growth is what comes up all the time.
Mm.
It's all about growth. And the staffing industry in general is a growth minded bunch, right? Like that they live for growth. Like sure there are like some lifestyle businesses, but it's usually around growth. And that's the challenge that everyone has been having because there just hasn't been a lot of job creation that they were finding. And the saying that the like some people don't like it, but staffing was the canary in the coal mine. So staffing is the first thing that goes in a downturn, and staffing is the first thing that comes back in an upturn, right? Because you don't have to take that risk of bringing someone on permanently. Well, we saw a lot of factors, 18 months ago that were really all over the board, right? Some companies really kept their internal people and they were just getting more production out of those internal people. Other companies obviously did these big layoffs. I think we heard a lot of it was around an AI. There's a lot of people that are like, no, that wasn't around AI. So again, I think that's broken. But I think this comes back to the norms, and that's why when you talk about a problem or a pain spot, a lot of staffing executives are coming to us and going, "Is something structural? Like, do you guys think it's structural? Like, do you just think it's not going to be the same this time?" And I think the difference is this time where, again, it's a 5-year. It wasn't like that one event that happened around, Y2K, that one event that happened around the banking crisis, that one, which by the way, there's these huge drops and then there's these pickups or these pickups preceded by these drops, right? But it's usually something that happens that creates a surge. And again, going back to the 5 years, so we have this drop off in 2020, we have this, complete surge in 21, 22, then we have this drop off. And then there was that feeling of, well, it's a presidential year, so let's get that behind us. And then there were just so many things that had transpired out of that, right? With the tariffs and just all of the ups and downs about, okay, what's going to happen is like in December, we thought we saw some bright spots in manufacturing. So people were like, okay, well, now looking back, it was probably the hoarding in anticipation of the tariffs of what was happening, right? So it is very much still, like you say, when you get that look back, it's not so much of a mystery, but there's so many different forces at play. Now, pain spots, though, still not easy to find healthcare workers. Like the difficulty of recruiting healthcare workers, I think IT, I think that's showing a broader time to fill. So that's not that easy. So there's, some of the things that existed before, finding the right talent for the right role is still hard. I think one of the new competitive situations that people sometimes forget about is before remote work. So remote work has changed things a lot. And I know there's a lot of companies that have said, you got to come back. But look at us right now. We're not on a plane and we're not in a hotel at a meeting. So here we are. And with remote work, I can be a company, I can be a talent platform anywhere. And I could be dipping into local talent to find a job anywhere. So if I'm let's say, San Francisco Bay Area staffing company only, I have a whole new level of competition that I didn't realize I had, or maybe I didn't have before, because it can either be a company that's recruiting within San Francisco for work that's not even happening in San Francisco, or a company outside of San Francisco that's coming at my talent, what used to be my talent, right? Because I was physically located there. So that's all changed. So, when we talk about pain, the speed to market to get that talent or group, right? So many times now it's not about the one person. It's about, I need 20 of these and I need 50 of these, or I need 200 of these. So to be able to get to them And to get your maximum pie of that opportunity, you got to be fast. And technology's fast. I mean, some of the voice AI work that we're looking at and some of the agentic AI, it's going out and talking to, it's 50 maps all going out at the same time. It's not like, I think we're pretty fast, but we're getting to one person at a time. So it does that speed and I think quality. It absolutely has proven to have quality. So it gets at a lot of that.
Are there any new, and it's actually a loaded question, and that is, are there any new solutions or potentially brand new industries? And I'm going to include this in the agenda of the event. Are there any new solutions or industries or agenda items that our audience really needs to know about? And part of the reason I ask this is to your point about speed and honestly bringing up something as simple as remote, but then 10 years later, kind of it becoming normal. Now we're seeing the effects. There are so many things that I would say, me starting as a founder that never knew about this like in-person slash staffing world, to me it's always just been let's get the work done. And so there are so many, going back to like norms, that a lot of leaders like me just don't have, that when staffing shows up we're like, well, why would you do it that way? You can do it this way. And I'll give one quick one, right? So in building one of our signature products is this thing called Market Map, right? And it's this massive database, basically a massive image file. Now, prior, if I wanted to optimize this from a shareability perspective, I'd need to go hire someone who was a marketing expert, yada, yada, yada. Instead, what I did this morning was I actually fired off 3 quote unquote jobs. Of those jobs that used to be 1 job, but now it's actually 3, I quote unquote hired 3 people all over the world, 1 in Ukraine, 1 in the US, and 1 in the UK. And I hired them for 1/300th of what I would have if I had needed 1 person. And now I get to look tonight and go, sweet, these are 3 different, analogies. So that's just one example of like collaboration that prior would have required, oh, do we have an employee that does this? Or, oh, do we bring on a temp who can do this? Well, right now it's as simple as I just put out to the world that like we're having this problem and we got like 100 proposals, right? But so that's one example. But so for you, when you're looking at industries, solutions, and the agenda, what does our audience really need to know about?
Well, I think we still hear that's great, but that's not for me.
Yes.
The survey that I was sharing that we haven't published yet, the initial findings are coming through that the smaller firms are not that interested in some of this technology and this AI. Midsize are, larger really are. And I think that I get that if we were 10 years ago. I get where the smaller firm would say, in 2010, I'm one of them. I think I was more of a mid-sized firm, but I said, you know what? I don't need to be in large accounts because I can go around the back door. I have a 75% markup. I get 30% fees on direct hire. So not for me, don't need it. Well, all of a sudden, when based on the customer's choice, everything had to run through that system. Guess who didn't know how to pivot her 200 people to work in that way? And so it took a lot longer in terms of just energy to learn how to service a large account. Little did I know that SIA has a whole certification class on it, and I was a client. But so we really had to figure it out on our own. Oh, there's these types of accounts, and there's this type of delivery, and this is in terms of a rate card and a markup, and all of the compliance and the onboarding and true profitability. But it's a great example of I wasn't alone. There were so many firms that would say, that's not for me, until the day it is. And so you have to know what you're competing with, or until the day your talent comes in and goes, yeah, well, you might not be working with XYZ company because they're, a large account. I want a job there because they're the hottest employer in town. So, you get disrupted in a different kind of way, and you have to get on board. So I would say first and foremost, there are so many things, Matt, that as you were asking the question, I'm like, should I do this alphabetical? Should I start in the, the attraction and make all my way through all the way to like redeployment and bringing them back around and all, all the automation that's there. And trust me, they're all going to be there. It's just, there's so many different ways to do this. And we also have the enterprise accounts there, right? That's also not a one size fits all. They are so savvy and so smart about, you know what, I'm going to run this through the MSP and the VMS program. I'm going to run this through our direct hire engagement. I'm going to run this through this talent platform over there because I love the way they can aggregate and they can bring the workers all together and they can get this done. And I'm going to do this in a different way. And they manage it. They're good. And now the technology can start to bring that all together. Because I think that's the thing, a few years ago even, that we used to kind of go, wow, when technology is the only thing missing. But once technology can bring this all together, and now you start to see, who do we have? Who's working for us? Like all those compliance and risk mitigation issues and all of that starts to really get lifted. And because you now know, and technology now is there and can do it. So I think that there's so many things, from how to run a more efficient and productive organization, how to drive more quality, more speed, how to make it a better employee related experience, internal, also that can translate external, but really how to be able to still drive your value proposition and your branding positioning of who you are as a company, but wrapping it around automation. That excites me because I think that's the thing we hear a lot. I'm not doing it because that's not how I run. Well, did you not go from it at whatever year you plugged in? Did you not go from using the, I think we used to have a slide that went from like, I don't know, phone to fax to, maybe to email to, just to something else, to a dumb terminal, to, cloud-based automation. And I think that's what, when I think, what do they have to know? They have to know there are so many alternatives. And even if they choose not to integrate them in, you remember when people say know your competition? Your competition doesn't look like your competition looked.
Yeah.
Your competition looks way different. So you need to know what all the alternatives are, even if you choose not to bring it into your organization. Because talent catches on so fast.
The only thing faster than talent is the founders making the decision to use the talent, right?
Exactly.
So, and that's, we talked in the pre-show about there's some companies out there, less than 10 people, that have generated 100 million plus of value. And 20 years ago, you'd go, no, and I will say in the lens of looking at other industries and saying, oh no, this makes sense, but not equivalent to mine. All right, Instagram was acquired for $1 billion with only 13 people, and a lot of talent-related solutions have looked and said, that won't touch us. Now it is, right? Now there is multiple venture-backed $1 million firms. Looking at the flexible talent industry, we've had 6 acquisitions in the past year. There's probably going to be 2 more before your conference, to be honest. And so people better go to SIA and they'll get the real lowdown on what actually happened in these acquisitions, how they are, and how to be one of the ones getting acquired. But listen, Ursula, as we close out, what is the one thing that you want our audience to know? And our audience, if for all you listeners, you better come see us in a week. You better go see Ursula. But even if you're not, what is the one thing that you want all of our Human Cloud listeners to know about you, SIA, and, to be honest, just the future of work?
Yeah, one's hard, Matt. It's really important that people understand what SIA does, right? Research and advisory, and we cover so many things, and we're here to help. And we always say it's about informing, connecting, and elevating the workforce solutions ecosystem. That ecosystem is big. So I think that, sometimes then maybe someone might say, but do you guys, are we for us? Are you for companies like us? We have a really expansive group that cover a lot. We have a lot to cover. If it's happening in the space, we're covering it. So I think that I would love people to understand how broad we are. I think the second thing is just understanding that we really are covering the entire supply chain. So, we start with the suppliers and the staffing, and then we go all the way through the staffing, the suppliers, the buyers, and we have an entire council of what we call the enterprise buyers. I think we have one in every 25 Fortune 100 on the council today. It's about 400 different seat holders that we advise, and they're trying to figure it out too. So everybody's in it together and trying to figure it all out. And I think when it comes to the one thing, like, we are a really great source to help with that. And you don't have to pay for everything, right? We have our complimentary news that just subscribe and just get in it and be a part of it. I'd love to see everyone at CollaborationX. But as a probably somebody who really loves entrepreneurs, my parents were entrepreneurs. If you own your own business, really look at doing it differently and be open-minded about it, specifically around technology and what can happen. If you're working for an organization, like, skill up, you expand yourself, listen to podcasts and YouTube videos and all kinds of different things. It's how I stay, outside of our research, I'm constantly staying up on those types of things to just, know what the best solution might be. Only you know. So there's a lot of solutions, but only you know your problem. Start with your problem, start with what you're trying to solve for. And I bet there's a solution out there. So I know that was more than one.
No, I love it. And listen, you better get some Human Cloud podcast listeners coming up to you saying, hey, love the episode. And for you listeners out there, Ursula is a lot more, I'm going to say, approachable, Ursula, because most CEOs are like not cool, and really tough to talk to. And you are very easy. So I will say,
well, thank you.
Any listener out there, when you see her in person, go up and talk to her. Yeah.
Yes, and I guess this is where we should share our big news.
Yes.
Matt's going to be there with us at CollaborationX, and he's going to be podcasting, and we're going to be looking for people to join the podcast that have something to share. So you got to tap into us and get on the agenda too.
We will be in person. Tony will be there as well. Tony's actually much better, Ursula. So you'll have a much cooler host, and me as well. But anyone, we always say, bring your customers, bring yourself, hop on the pod, let's chat. A conversation can take things God knows where, a lot farther than sometimes even just a technology feature. But Ursula, thank you for letting us come to the podcast and not having to crash it. But we're beyond honored to bring the Human Cloud podcast live to SIA. I know it's been a lot of years in the making. So first of many,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, we're really excited. You're going to be right in the middle of the collaboration hall. I've seen what they're designing for you.
Can't wait.
It's going to be exciting.
It's going to be awesome. It won't be as cool as actually talking to you, Ursula, but a second best will be able to be on the Human Cloud pod. Well, listen, thank you so much for hopping on here. We will see you in a week, and all you listeners, get to Dallas ASAP. Get there a week before. Come hop on the Human Cloud pod live. Go talk with Ursula. And Ursula, thank you so much for hopping on.
Thank you. Okay, looking forward to seeing you all. Thanks, Matt.